Hello and welcome to the Soulful Goddess Living Podcast. My name is Tyra Omilade, and I use ancient wisdom to educate and empower women to unlock the goddess within so they can liberate themselves from trauma and limiting beliefs while stepping into their power, aligning to their life purpose, and creating a goddess-centered lifestyle. It's all about you, goddess, and I am so happy that you are here today. Enjoy this latest episode of my podcast. Greetings, greetings, greetings. How are you, goddess? So happy to connect with you here today in one of my Priestess Musings. And I want to talk about spiritual teachers. I have honestly been struggling here lately and a little bit resistant to what I think is a calling that I have as a spiritual guide, which does involve, of course, spiritual teaching. Maybe we could talk about spiritual mentors, spiritual leaders. We can even just talk about leaders in general, maybe in business, mentors when it comes to health and well-being, you name it, people who we look to for guidance and leadership um, in some of the most vulnerable areas of our lives. But in this one, I'm talking about spiritual teachers. And what has come up for me is learning how despicable some spiritual teachers are, um, how many people find themselves not with a spiritual guide or a teacher, but with a cult leader, somebody who has an ego that is huge and, has lots of charisma and knows how to get people to do exactly what they want. And, you know, it's disturbing beyond measure. And at the time of this recording, it's August 2024. And I have really and truly just been questioning this whole path that I'm on. There's something to it because I know I have been changed as a result of this path that I'm on. Um, and when I know I have things that people want to learn from me, some things I don't want to put out on the internet. I just feel like it should be people who are students and serious about learning and will use everything that I know and can share in a mature way, i.e., things like initiations. And I want to even kind of think about when it comes to health and wellness, because I find myself struggling with people in the health and wellness arena also. And yeah, so yes, I know there's something to it. I know there's something to us having so much information and more empowered to take care of our health and well-being. Um, and I know that the spiritual path that I've been on, there's something to it. There's a lot that I've learned that has helped me along the way. And my philosophy has always been if I keep doing something that someone teaches me and it's not working, especially if I really apply it and do my best to, go full out, then I expect to see results. And I used to kind of feel bad about that. There's certain things in the spiritual realm where, in a way, you kind of get criticized for, say, for instance, being result oriented. Um, yeah. Why am I doing all this if it's not changing my life for the better? That's how I think about spirituality, and that's how I think about health and wellness. And so I know there's something to it. And by the same token, every time I find that I really bought into somebody who I now find out is it's like and I always kinda know something is wrong. I kinda get to that point where I'm like, "Something isn't right," but I can't quite put my finger on it. I always kind of find myself distant. I don't all the time know exactly what it is, but I'll just find I'm just not listening to that person anymore. Even though I may think, "Oh, wow, what they shared when I was listening to them was helpful." No más, no más. And so, it almost makes me doubt myself. It's like, how did I fall for that? But then it's like, okay, at least I knew something was wrong and I pulled back. So that makes me happy. And my goal is how do I be a good guide to people and ethical, just what are the guidelines and what are the standards? Because I don't all the time hear this. Maybe the closest has been from one teacher who said something to the effect of, "You have to respect people's models of the world, and, you don't tell people what to do. You have to let people live their own lives, and you get to choose how you're gonna support them in doing that if you want to support them." And that's very important to me, especially realizing that sometimes I have found people and it's like, whoa, something isn't right. And eventually I find out I was correct. Something wasn't right. But I don't understand why I'm not in that group. Sometimes I am in the group that is just like from the door, this person is scammy. Something is wrong. I can typically see that. But when I miss it, I'm just kind of like, how did I miss it? So I just wanna tell you this, and I remember making actually, now that I think about it, making a video that where I encourage people to be smart spiritual consumers. You wanna be smart spiritual consumers, and one thing that what led me to say that is, um, some of you may remember Doreen Virtue, and this woman was with Hay House, like, she was a big household name. And I just remember at some point I started listening to her and I was just like, I don't vibe her. I was already struggling with every deck from Doreen, it seems like was um the only portrayal of these angels or whatever it was in her deck were white. Maybe there was one that had some from across cultures, but for the most part, I was struggling with that. And oh my gosh, I remember I found Doreen Virtue probably around 2006 or so, and I remember reading her books and just so many things that she wrote, it just helped to open me up so much, and then just one day, something changed, and I just wasn't vibing her, and right before she made a big pivot, I listened to her videos, I thought, "I hadn't listened to Doreen in a while," and as I listened to her, I was like, something isn't right. Like, this isn't the Doreen I remember. And then I started noticing her videos turned ultra Christian, like not just the Christ consciousness or I'm into Jesus, you don't have to be. No, she was kind of like, in my opinion, that hard religious evangelical type. And then she started denouncing everything she had done. I mean, people's whole lives got turned upside down because Doreen Virtue shifted from being, this new agey person to being a hardcore. I would say she's more of like cult dogmatic Christian. She's not what I would consider to be like a normal Christian. Um, and it just wrecked people's lives. And it was odd, like, this one guy that I was looking at, he was like, "Hey, Doreen said throw the deck away," on his video on YouTube. He took the deck and threw it over his shoulder, and he was like, "Okay, Doreen said we were Jesus now." I'm like, "Oh my god." No, that's not what we do, bruv. That's not what we do. Um, he was a young guy, so, um he probably found his way back out of that. But anywho, I just remember thinking we have to become smart spiritual teachers, I mean, spiritual consumers. And when we align ourselves with a teacher, we have to be able to challenge that teacher or question a teacher. Um, that's number one. You should. So if on my live streams, if I get something wrong, I don't mind if y'all are like, "Hey," I Keita May is great for writing to me like, "Ia, this, like this word is wrong," or something is wrong with the post. I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you." um I do my best to set it up that you don't have to think like me. You don't have to believe like me. I'm goddess devotee 100%. But I meet women who love me and love my content, but they are just like, no, I'm good with God being He, and they're a little bit still in a religion of some sort. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem, you should have a problem with me if I was like, "No, you need to be exactly like me." See, these are the kinds of things I want us to watch out for. I want us to watch out for there's no room for dissent. There's no room for you actually being who you are. Maybe you don't even know fully what's going on with your spirituality, and you need to figure this out. If you have anyone who is questioning you like, "Hey, you shouldn't do that. You need to be like this. I have the one true way." And they don't always say it that way. It's not always that direct. Sometimes these people are charismatic and they sound like they are certain and they speak with um, authority. And that's impressive. Most people who are leaders know people actually want to be led. No matter what we think, we respect strength. I think it's just a part of our human nature. And so, they'll do it in a way where, it's just like, wow, this is a person of strength. But there's other things we can look at. And I'm naming names in this particular case. I'm going over into the health and wellness field because this is one place where I, yeah, I feel like I've been duped so many times. I fell for something so many times that was just kind of like, wow, not smart. So I remember when I first decided I got to do the intermittent fasting thing. I'm 100% for intermittent fasting. I used to do it before it was called intermittent fasting. I used to do it back in the when I was at Spelman College in the early 90s. I just remember seeing something that said, just don't eat after 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Stop eating and then eat the next morning. Don't remember what it was, but tried it. It worked. And I kind of moved away from it. Actually, just wasn't doing it. And then I got sold by seeing somebody else's results who I know personally with the intermittent fasting. So I get online and I want to learn more about intermittent fasting. And right away, I find this man named Dr. Berg, Eric Berg, and I started just devouring his videos. And I remember even one time I had this pain in my right side, and he was like, "Well, you got to figure out." I looked at this video because he knows how to name the videos so that you can find them. And so pain on the right side, in the torso area. So he was like, press it. And if it stops hurting, then it's not your gallbladder. You're just consuming too much fat. So drink some apple cider vinegar. I did that and I've not had a problem since. Like I was sold. And then during the pandemic, now Dr. Berg is a chiropractor, which I don't have a problem with chiropractors. I love chiropractic. Although now I'm starting to kind of be like, sometimes chiropractors maybe they should just stick with chiropractic. Okay. Because you giving other chiropractors a bad name when they do stuff that's a little bit scammy. So It was something during the pandemic. First of all, chiropractors typically are not gonna do they don't want anything to do with vaccinations. It's just how it is. And so I did not, the whether or not someone wanted to get vaccinated during the pandemic, I don't even care at this point. I know there was like at some point it was a big deal. But I thought what Dr. Berg was doing and the way he was talking about why he didn't think people should get vaccinated at that time was irresponsible. And it was the sources he was using in the video. And so that was about year 3 that I had been listening. Well, yeah, I was in the 3rd year of listening to Dr. Berg. And that's when I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. And I've just never I unsubscribed, and I was and the other thing about him is there was something he said in one of his videos, and I disagreed with Dr. Berg, and the people in the comment section, Dr. Berg didn't even have to come for me, baby, and I wasn't rude, like, I don't leave rude comments. I just questioned something. I stated that I didn't agree or something. The people in the comments ate me alive. I actually deleted the doggone, comment that I made. They were so vicious. So, it's 2024 at the time of this recording, and sometimes it's kind of like, "Oh, I need to remember this," or, "I need to know something." I'm still not subscribed to his channel, but I will sometimes look, because it's so easy to find a Dr. Berg video. I'll kinda look at something, to kinda get a little bit of information. And I just kept feeling like, I don't know why I cannot listen to Dr. Berg a lot. I don't watch his videos. He doesn't inspire me every time I look at him. Oh, the other thing that kind of disturbed me about Dr. Berg, and this is kind of like what I was talking about with the teachers. You need to do it this way: keto, 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 keto. And I don't have no problems with keto, but everybody, keto ain't it for everybody. But you listen to Dr. Berg, it's for everybody. Anywho, yeah, just couldn't come back to him. And then today, Spirit led me to a video by Dr. Berg's son. I'm like, what is going on? This young man has been making videos for a couple of years now. Oh my God, Dr. Berg is a part of Scientology. I'm like, what? But, I thought to myself, I never could quite put my finger on it, couldn't put my finger on it. Grateful that I had just picked up on it and left Dr. Berg alone for the most part, but it really shook me. And I started thinking about Dr. Berg, um, the how, to dissent in his comment section, it wasn't gonna be nice. But the other thing was, if you watch these teachers, these leaders, these gurus that everybody's looking up to, when they get challenged and when times are hard, how do they act? I think that is the most telling thing. And Dr. Berg, when somebody challenged him, he was gonna make a video to try to, like, he was a little vicious. Like, when you hear him talk, he doesn't have a lot of affect to his face. His humor is a little dry at times, if you even get that, but it's real monotone kind of sorta. And, but then you see him when he gets upset when somebody challenges him. And I used to think, "Dang, he's a little petty." That's interesting. Wow, okay, Dr. Berg is petty when he gets upset. And so, yes, things like that, when you get challenged, when that teacher gets challenged, what happens? Do people get excommunicated? Do people get put out of the community? Does everybody have to agree with that teacher? Is there a lot of conformity going on. And I like to believe that that I cultivate people. I like to consider myself to be the spiritual guide for misfits, people who feel like they don't fit in anywhere. And therefore, we just all show up and we are who we are. We don't have to be like everybody else, right? Um, I want to believe that that's what I'm cultivating the most, but I'm just making this for my peace of mind. It's out there that first and foremost, I'm human. I will make mistakes and I will apologize. I will do my best to make amends. Um, you know, I'm not above reproach, although, I'm not going to lie, I want to be respected for what I'm good at. Uh, and I do everything I can to be excellent and share things that I have used for myself. And, but it's up to you. Do you want to use them or not? Doesn't matter to me. All right. And that's important. That's very important. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with me or you're dealing with, some teacher that you love in some other area of your life. Another thing, too, that I want to emphasize is as we work with teachers, yes, our teachers can make us feel uncomfortable because teachers and guides and coaches, mentors are here to help us stretch and become more of who we are. And when we go into new territory, it will feel uncomfortable. However, if you're dealing with a teacher who makes you feel bad about yourself, then there's a question mark. I've worked with people and I'm like, I don't know why I just always kind of feel like I'm not measuring up. And then after a while, I'm like, you know what? I don't think it's them. I don't think it's me. I think I'm in an environment that's not for me. It's kind of like we need to be listening to our gut and our body, even when people are like, no, don't do that. Cause that's where all the cults come from. Turn off your ability to think for yourself. And, you know, don't think for yourself. Just do this. Go with the crowd, do this. It's like we have to find ways to rescue ourselves from that. I heard a woman say today, oh my gosh, it was on a different topic, but I like how she said that sometimes we're missing in action and we don't even know we're missing in action. But then it's kind of like, why is there no one around us who's noticing we're missing in action? You know? So you kind of have to take note. Am I missing in action? And oftentimes when we're doing stuff that um or when we're a part of something and other people in our families are kind of like, I'm not sure about this. Just give it a chance. Let them say, okay, well, I'm gonna be skeptical because this person I know for sure loves me. I just met this teacher, but this person loves me. And if they are questioning what I'm doing, even though I may not stop, I'm going to allow myself to let their question sit in my mind. And I think being a part of a group is a beautiful thing, but that we've got to have standards. We've got to have standards. And I know people have told me that their loved ones are like, hey, mom, I think you're dealing with a cult, you know? And sometimes, especially with dealing with cults, they'll love bomb you. And yeah, I often am just seeking that balance. How do I make sure I stay connected and I'm super supportive without making it I don't want people to be like, yeah, I mean, I have people in my life, but these are like people I've known for decades who are like, Tyra, what did you say? That's what I'm gonna do. I don't even like it when they say that to me. I'm gonna be 100 with you. But I definitely don't want people who look to me as a spiritual guide, teacher, to kind of feel like, well, if Ia says do it, I'm going to do it. Baby, Ia may not have all the information. We can do a reading. I do readings for people all the time. I'm like, this is what the oracle is indicating. But in the end, you need to make your own decision. Now, if the oracle confirmed what you already feeling, okay. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be deciding anything in anybody's life. And that's the kind of coach you want to be dealing with or a teacher. And sometimes I do know. Sometimes I'm watching and I'm like, man, I know what's going on. I can see it plain and clear as day. But I respect people to be able I trust you with your own life. I trust you with your own life. And it's okay if you ask me, what about this? And you do something different. And maybe you're like, well, you know what? I'm gonna go back and try what Ia said, what Tyra said. So we want to just be cautious and we want to always remind ourselves that sometimes we have what is called confirmation bias happening. And, you know, we need to just be cautious of that. We need to be able to be critical of everything. Sometimes it's kind of like, let me see if I can find what's wrong here. This is almost like too good to be true. And so, yeah, maybe it's kind of sort of like when I've been talking about relationships here lately. What are your standards for your spiritual teachers? What is it that you're like, I know this is a good spiritual teacher because of. And you might have to kind of study people who you're listening to, spiritual guides, spiritual teachers, and get a list together. And if there's one thing missing, then it's kind of like I gotta I can't buy in too much. I'll say it that way. You don't have to let that person go, but maybe you don't buy in as much. And trust yourself when it doesn't feel right, when something doesn't feel right. I give thanks that at least I will back myself up. I may not know exactly what's wrong, but when I once I sense it, it's like, nah, something's not right here. And I guess that's one of the lessons for me is just to trust that. And spiritual guides and teachers are gonna let you down. You know, I'll tell you something else. I'm glad I remembered this. I believe in researching them. So I actually am kind of transparent about what I believe and who I'm for and what I'm about. And I think for some people it's counterintuitive for business, but I don't like it. Say, for instance, with Dr. Berg. And now I'm not saying he was secretive, but maybe I could have done some research. I really believe, I'll never forget, I really believe in finding out who am I spending my money with because what are they going to do with my money is spend it with somebody else. And what if they're spending it with somebody who I don't believe in? So there was this one coach in business, James Wetmore. I maybe he's a good coach, maybe I know so many people who still work with them and I'm just like, mm-mm. He came off super woo woo. And I just remember at some point getting to a place where I was just like, something doesn't feel right. And I just stopped listening to his podcast. I had bought something from him. But when I would listen to his podcast, I was like, something is off. And I just moved away from listening to him. And then, I don't know. I didn't see it with my own two eyes, but the word on the street was this guy was connected to QAnon. And I was like, absolute deal breaker for me. Absolute deal breaker. So I kind of talk about what I'm about so that people can decide, do I really want to deal with Tyra or not? Because actually, if you don't like what I'm about, actually, I don't want you spending your money with me, your time, your attention, all of that. I can work with people on almost just about anything, but where there is a deal breaker, like Scientology, QAnon, I'm like, hell to the nah. And although I can't tell what's wrong, it always gets revealed. So I do my best to kind of be transparent. And, if it upsets people that I'm about something that they're not about, I want them to be happy that I showed my whole hand. And I want you to look at, if you could, like what I started doing is I'll go to somebody's Instagram account and I'll look through Instagram and see who are they following. And sometimes I do kinda look to see, like, how diverse of a if this person is white, how diverse what kind of diversity are you following? I don't care how many diverse people are following you, I wanna know who are you following, you know? I wanna look at your summits and the things that you're hosting, and are you including diversity? Because if not, eh, forget about it. I don't care how much I like what you're saying, forget about it. Or, maybe I don't know, it's like, do some investigation. I never did meet when I found Dr. Berg, this was in 2017 before I became even more savvy because, online, it's important to verify everything that we're hearing. And, I kinda moved away from him and just I really actually started getting into people who have MDs, functional medicine doctors, people who are more like researchers, and Dr. Berg would share research, so, I will say that that was something I look for in him, but, um, yeah. Anywho, I just think it's important I found him before I started, like, really researching and finding out, like, who is this person beyond this product that they're selling and this information that they're selling. And it's one of the reasons if you go to my Instagram and look at who I'm following, you will know who I'm about. And I actually go out of my way. I don't try to separate. You can know my politics if you want to. You can know like the things that I'm interested in, the people that I follow. You'll find a lot because I'm interested in a lot. But yeah, I do my best. So I really want you to make sure that these teachers that you just love, we're all on YouTube and Instagram and, all this social media. We are to a certain degree charismatic. We are like, we're almost like actors. It's like you want to come across a certain way because you want to magnetize people. I even remember thinking that Wetmore was, like, using shamanism to get people to buy his program. I have no proof of that. It was just a question that I had based on an experience. Um, it's like, you wanna know everything about this person, as much as you can. And so, yeah, I'm just committing to myself to do a better job, even though I'm pretty good, like I said, but I always get doubtful of myself when I'm like, "Oh my god, how did I make such a terrible error?" Even though I've been done with Dr. Berg for years, how did I make such a horrible, terrible error? And I know people will say, "Tyra, you're being hard on yourself." But I'm a spiritual guide and teacher, and I just wanna make sure that I'm always decent and in order, and, it makes me like, "Okay, can I really do this and help people if I can't figure certain things out?" But anyhow, I just wanted to share that with you all, in my quest to help people avoid being scammed, and it's not even just in this spiritual arena, no, in the world religions, this is the case. Personal development is horrible with people. It's like you really wanna do your research, and people just really wanting to be in charge of people's minds and getting them to spend money, you know? Um, we just wanna it's everywhere in so many different arenas, sports, you name it. It's endless how this can happen, and so I just want you to always do your research. I want you to always check in. I want you to look at how this person acts when things get rough, when times are hard. How are they acting? And when they're challenged, when they're questioned. Also, the people who hang out with them, it's just like they get these cult followings where If you say one bad thing about them, you going down. Some people, Imma give them a little bit Imma cut them a little slack. Like the, beehive, I don't mess with the beehive. The Swifties, I'm just leaving them alone. I mean, like, there's nothing we can do about it. I actually like Beyoncé, and, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but I think she has a good heart, for the most part. So, if they ever go off the beaten path, hopefully the beehive and the Swifties will check them and, tell them, "No, we don't act like that," right? So, yeah, hope this has been helpful, and yeah, thank you so much for being here. I wish you all the best, and may you always, always walk in your own sovereignty and inner authority and power. And if you find that you have abdicated your power to somebody else, that you have found yourself to be part of some type of cult following where you cannot deviate and be who you are called to be, may you make that turn and come right on out or get some help, get you out. All right? Sending you a big hug. Thank you so much, Goddess. Peace and love. Hey, Queen. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to like this episode and hit that subscribe button so that you are notified of all my new releases. Also, be sure to follow me on YouTube and Instagram and download my Goddess Mini Toolkit, which has all the tools to support you right away in your goddess-centered lifestyle. You'll see all the details right there in the description box. Hey, you have a wonderful day. Be well, sister.